So you guys must have been excited when he won Iowa, with being a third place finish.
Three-way tie, kind of.
In essence, I'd say Ron Paul placed second, because Santorum and Romney wrote eight votes was the difference.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really Ron Paul grabbed second, but not only having done so well, if you look at his totals from '08, he more than doubled his totals in support and broadened his range of support from independents, liberal Democrats who were disenfranchised with Obama's failed policies, and even evangelicals. I know we saw Santorum eat up most of what Huckabee got in '08 because the evangelicals, pumped him up for victory, and we saw Ron Paul capture some of that. And even in this area in New Hampshire, I'm a Ringe native. I've lived in this area for almost 15 years, and I can remember in '04 working for John Kerry and supporting him, and my classmates who were right-wing evangelical Christians supporting Bush, and we were always at odds, didn't get along very well. Well, here we are 8 years later, we're on the same team. These same evangelicals who I was arguing with 8 years ago who supported Bush are now supporting Ron Paul, and so am I. So I think that really speaks to Ron Paul's credibility and his appeal to a broad base of different people from different backgrounds.
But do you think he can win New Hampshire? Because right now Romney's ahead in the polls. He's like 18 points ahead of Ron Paul, like 38 to 20%. Do you think he has what it takes to win this state, even though Mitt Romney, the governor of Massachusetts, close by, he owns a $10 million house at Lake Winnipesaukee. He has the money, even though Ron Paul does have the money, like the money bomb campaigns and everything else. Do you think he has what it takes in order to beat Mitt Romney, to be the anti-Romney candidate? Because as it stands right now, you have the libertarian movement with Ron Paul. You have the socially conservative candidate, Rick Santorum, or the anti-Romney, and then you have Mitt Romney. But do you think it's possible for Mitt Romney to lose to Ron Paul in order to gain the nomination?
Yeah, I mean, New Hampshire has a history of upsets for the establishment in both parties. I think it was in 1988, was it Buchanan who won the primary, or did he win in 96?
It would have been 96.
Okay, but there was a couple of upsets in primaries here. And I mean, you look at John McCain coming out in 2000 against Bush, edging Bush in the New Hampshire primary, I think by...
No, he whipped his
He
butt
whipped
by
his
18
butt,
points.
and Professor Robin Murray here at Franklin Pierce actually
Predicted
the
that.
exact numbers, and I think a lot of people going into it thought, oh, this is our guy, he's got it on lock. The thing about New Hampshire, it's one of the states that has the most independent voters in the whole country. I mean, I consider myself an independent. I know tons of people that I disagree with on a number of issues, and they consider themselves independents. So those people maybe who haven't made up their minds yet could just go into that voting booth and say, hey, you know what, I am going to go for Ron Paul. I'm not going to listen to the media. I'm not going to listen to what the polls tell me, and I'm gonna vote for Ron Paul because I'm just sick of the establishment and I'm sick of the status quo. So I think there's a lot of that mindset here in New Hampshire, and you can see that come out on Tuesday in a big way.
And absolutely, like what Mike said, I mean, anything can happen from now until Tuesday. We got 2 days until the primary. I mean, last night Ron Paul just owned. He owned everybody in that debate.
Right.
He hammered away at Romney. He hammered at Santorum. Gingrich. He showed and really mapped out why he's a real leader and has this actual record to back up everything he's saying. Whereas Romney will say whatever he needs to say in front of the crowd that he happens to be in front of. The only thing he's consistent about is that he's consistently inconsistent. So Ron Paul's message hasn't changed in over 30 years, and as long as he's been in public life. And I think that once more voters are able to see that, and they are seeing it, his numbers are rising. He's digging into Romney's lead every day. I mean, Romney was up in the high 40s not too long ago, but now he's dipping down to the 30s. And Ron Paul is steadily climbing up into the mid-20s. So, I mean, depending on what poll you look at. But, if you ask my thought, Romney probably will win the primary, but it will not be by much. And it is possible that Paul comes out and wins the primary. I mean,
another thing, though, for all the Romney supporters that you see at his events, I feel like a lot of them are going with him because he is who the media is really pushing, who the status quo is pushing, who the mainstream Republican Party is pushing, and they're like, this is going to be our guy to beat Obama. I'm not really in love with this guy. This is the same guy, who said that he was going to be better on abortion than Ted Kennedy down in Massachusetts. This is a guy who got, so-called Obamacare going in Massachusetts before Obama got it going as president. So I think a lot of conservatives don't really trust the guy. They just feel like he's electable. He can beat Obama. Yes, he's got a lot of money. He's been camped out here in New Hampshire for years. This is his.
He's essentially been running since '06.
This is his second go around at it.
Yeah.
But if you see the people at the Ron Paul events, I mean, they're like really dedicated. They really believe in this guy, and they'll do anything they can to help get him elected. But I'm not saying that's the case for all Romney supporters, that their heart's not really in it. But I think you do see a lot of that, and they're just kind of just accepting the status quo.